Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Dr. Nandan Sharma from Shulni University. Back to you with the knowledge sharing series powered by School of Law, Shulni University. Today we have a very eminent jurist, a very eminent academician, the doyen of the legal industry here, Professor Dr. Devender Singh from Punjab University, Chandigarh. Truly honored to have you here today here on board with us. Just to introduce the speaker today, Professor Dr. Devender Singh is currently Professor, Department of Laws, Punjab University, Chandigarh. Prior to this, he was also the Secretary to Vice Chancellor, Punjab University, Chandigarh, and the Dean Faculty of Law, Punjab Technical University, Jalandhar. Back to the academic qualifications, if we go, he has metric and graduated, and all the after his initial studies, he took to Punjab University for the LLB degree, and then the LLM he did from HPU Shimla in 1998, and then again the doctorate from Punjab University, Chandigarh. So as I told you, a very, very eminent academician in this part of the country. He is also the president of the, he has been the president of the Punjab University Teachers Association in 2013 to 2014. Sir has authored several and edited and authored several books to his credit he has, including those on human rights for women, administrative law, human rights for children, and lastly, I'm told that he has also published a book on Article 370, Union Territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Sir, congratulations for that. Also, if we talk about the research arena, it's very, very vast with approximately 50 publications, research on more than 70 students, completed and ongoing, and several PhDs, about 20 odd PhDs. He has been a keynote speaker in several national and international seminars and conferences. So, lots and lots to discuss if we talk about the profile of such a enchanting personality which we have today with us on the board. So, the theme basically chosen for today, guys, is the anti-defection laws, which is catching the eyes of each and every one of us, be it surrounding with the latest controversies, whether it be the past with Karnataka or with Madhya Pradesh and currently ongoing in few other countries in northern part of the country, and also catching the eyes of all the legal luminaries, also even the apex courts and the high courts of various other countries, that is the anti-defection laws. So this is the basic core area which we will revolve around it with our few discussions and few questions to throw light on some of the basic points in the anti-defection laws. So before starting, again, I welcome you, sir. Thank you so much for accepting the invite. And
thank you. Thank you.
So, sir, just to begin with the discussions, as you have a thorough grasp on the Constitution of India, on the basic document imbibed that on which the basic framework of our country is standing today, so please throw light on this background and objectives of the anti-defection laws.
Dr. Nandan, I am thankful to you personally and to the Shulni University for starting this initiative. That this is the best we can do while sitting at home during this testing circumstances. So, coming to the topic, Nandan, we are very lucky that democracy is being deep-rooted in the Indian society and culture, and it has constitutional recognition. So, we are democratic, and when we are more democratic, we exercise our more rights. Then we need certain regulations, preventions, prohibitions. That rights are not absolute always. They should be exercised with certain limitations, as they can protect the rights of others, of the institutions, of the nations. In this interest, we see the anti-defection law has also come. As democracy grew in India almost for 35 years, then what we saw that misuse of certain things has been started. For example, in case of anti-defection law, that we have a democracy And democracy, there is a democratic government. So democratic government becomes functional only through the political parties we have. So in political parties, there is a lack of discipline. Once MLAs, member of parliaments are being elected, once they are elected, they reach the house, and we know that there are certain rules. Certain MPs and MLAs become chief minister and ministers of respective governments in the center or at the state, and majority are left. Once they are left and they are out of the power, they are not ministers, they are not chief ministers, they are not chairpersons of the boards, and etc. Then the carpet crossing takes place. They leave the connection with their own political party, joins with the opposition, and then the problem comes that the government elected by the people, which is mandated under the constitution for 5 years, it being short term, and a new government comes, and therefore the MLAs within the party need certain regulations. In the year 1985, we thought that we should have a law on this. So anti-defection law was drafted because we have certain cases, as I told you, that MLAs and MPs started crossing the carpets. One of such case in Haryana, that party member changed his party twice or thrice by the evening in a day. His name was Ayaram, but people know him as a Gayaram. That he joins a party and he joins other party. Then he was not known as a Ayaram, but he was known as a Gayaram. So therefore, in 85, we have a law. The first and foremost objective of this law was to provide the stability to the democratically elected government for the constitutional term of 5 years. So after the 5 years performance, people of the state or people of the country, as the case may be, may judge the performance of the government if they are allowed to work for 5 years. So in this background, till 1985, we have majority governments. People used to give a clear-cut mandate for a party, but in between, at times, the state assemblies are being short-lived. The reason was that the MLAs crossed the carpet from one side to the other, and this could not happen in the center. Therefore, we brought this law with the sole objective that the stability to the government should be there, to have a discipline within the political party which runs the government in a democracy.
Right, sir. So that means, sir, it was added in after the 10th schedule, I guess, to the Constitution of India.
1985, 10th
Right.
schedule.
Right. So as per the latest position now, what are the grounds basically of disqualification under this law?
Let us see this in two parts. When this 10th schedule came in the year 1985, then there were grounds, there were three grounds, rather four grounds for the disqualification. If a member leaves the party voluntarily, if somebody is not keeping good in the ideology of that political party, he leaves the political party, it will be disqualification. The other one, there are members who are nominated to certain assemblies, and there are nomination to the Rajya Sabha also, and till now there were nomination to Lok Sabha as well. So if there are nominations and the nominated members joins political party after the expiration of 6 months, if they are a member of any political party, then okay, they will continue. If they are not member of any political party, they go to the house, and once they go to the house, within 6 months, they can join either of the political party. But after 6 months, if they join, it is disqualification. Independent members who are not fielded by the political parties in the elections, and they are independently chosen by the people, so they will continue to be independent only, and there will be no joining of political party by them. The next thing was the 1/3 members joins any other political party, or 1/3 members of a political party breaks away, then that is known as a defection in the political party. Then 1/3 member of that political party and 2/3 members shall be recognized separately in the house as a group. So 1/3 was justified. There is another justification for the anti-defection, or we can say exemption, like one-third rule of defection. There is a merger. If two-thirds of the member merge with another party, with the new group or with the larger group or with the similar group, then two-third member would be joining, pass a resolution to join the party. They are also exempted from disqualification, and the leftover one-third member were also exempted from the disqualification. They are not disqualified. But let me tell you, Dr. Nandan, what happened as the law was new in the year 1985. So individual defections were taking place. So this law proved to be very effective by the year 1995 or 2000. That the individual defections has come to an end, because anybody leaves the party, he would be disqualified. But the rule of one-third was there. One-third means that if one-third of the members join the other political party, they are the defectors. They are defections. And if that is a defection, they shall be recognized as a separate political party, separate political group in the house. Now that one-third is a force, and that one-third joins the opposition, then the government is toppled. Government is being short-lived because of this. So this one-third rule became a tool to topple the governments, because there is no check on this, and that is being justified. That is being legalized. That if individual member does the task of defecting from the party, he would be disqualified. But if they are one-third, then they are defectors. So it was like as a tool, and few speakers, few rulings has come where it says that if one member defects, speaker says wait for a while, political party says wait for a while, in the next week, two member more defect, in the next month, five members will more come, and in the meantime, when they are one-third, then speaker used to give their ruling that now they are one-third, and that is a defection. So democratically elected government comes to an end. This rule was misused. Then came the amendment. 91st Amendment to the Constitution came in the year 2002. Then this one-third rule was done away with, and more teeth were provided to the anti-defection and defection law.
So that means, sir, if I have a separate ideology and I change my party later on, earlier I had the same views, so that means I come under the anti-defection laws. I am disqualified at that. Right.
Individually.
Okay, sir. And
individually. If it is one-third rule.
Right, sir.
If it is a one-third rule up to 2003, it worked.
Okay.
And it was a constitutional tool to break down the government, to topple the government. But the 91st Amendment has stopped this and said that another thing was provided in the 91st Amendment. 91st Amendment, another thing was provided, that Article 75 and 191 says, 163 says that the size of the ministry shall be 15% of the total members of the Lok Sabha in center and legislative assembly in the state. So therefore, if not more than 15% members cannot be made ministers, it is a ceiling on the ministry. If it is a ceiling on the ministry, then someday it was very effective to stop the defections, because defections always takes place for some profit, for some post, or some position. So it stopped that they cannot be made ministers or they cannot take any post under the government unless they are re-elected to the same house. It is a disqualification unless they are re-elected. So that was another beauty, another additional advantage to the 91st Amendment in 2003.
So, sir, basically, what is the criteria behind this cap of 15%? What is the deciding criteria behind this?
I guess there is no criteria, because as you are also student of law, and what are being taught, that what is being done by the legislature, it is in their wisdom, and that cannot be questioned.
Okay.
There are many things, many things which are being fixed.
Right.
As such, that we take it at its that it's in the legislative wisdom. Parliament has done this, legislature has done this, so we are a student of law and we have to see. But if you see, the 50%, 15% has been fixed, keeping in view the size of the parliament.
Okay.
Because size of in the parliament, always there are 80 or 85 ministers.
Right.
And if you see this 80 or 85 ministers, they come to 15% of the total member of the Lok Sabha. So that was a precedent throughout. And a similar formula they have applied for the states, but there is one exception which is being kept for the state. We know we are a union of smaller states too.
Right.
So where there are less than 100 legislative assembly members, then number of ministers, including chief minister, is being fixed 15. So minimum number is 15, including chief minister.
Right.
It can be a 68 member house like Himachal. It can be 90 member house like Haryana. So it is 15%, 15 only. 15 number is also 15 and percent is also 15. Ji.